Welcome. So this is a talk on mathematics anxiety. I am Dana Such. I'm a reader at the Center for Neuroscience in Education, Department of Psychology, University of Cambridge, UK. The talk is based on our booklet on mathematics anxiety, which we published together with Irene Mammarella from the University of Padua, Italy. You can see a picture of the booklet on the left side of this slide, and you can download the booklet free of charge at the internet link seen at the bottom of this slide. As you see, the booklet is available in multiple languages. First of all, what is mathematics anxiety? Mathematics is often perceived as a difficult subject by many students, parents, and teachers alike, and difficulties with mathematics are most often attributed to cognitive problems like the lack of ability, preparedness, practice, and lack of knowledge. However, it is increasingly recognized that many problems with mathematics are of emotional nature. Many students have serious negative emotional reactions to mathematics, and this often debilitating emotional reaction to mathematics is termed mathematics anxiety. Mathematics anxiety is usually defined as a feeling of tension and anxiety that interferes with the manipulation of numbers and the solving of mathematical problems in ordinary life and academic situations. Simply put, math anxiety is fear of learning and doing mathematics. Math anxiety can range from feeling mild tension to experiencing strong fear of mathematics. Math anxiety can be experienced in school setting or in everyday life, for example, when counting money in a shop. Importantly, people who are relatively good in math can also have high mathematics anxiety. It is not restricted to poor math achievers, as we will see later. Why should we care about mathematics anxiety? We should care about math anxiety because it has negative consequences on the short, medium, and long term. On the short term, math anxiety can lead to worries that can occupy students' thoughts during test situations, thereby negatively affecting their math scores. On the medium term, students with high math anxiety may avoid elective math classes even if they are good in mathematics. Therefore, the math achievement level of these students may not reach their full potential. On the long term, students and adults with high level of math anxiety may avoid math-related career choices altogether. From this point of view, it is important to know that females tend to have higher math anxiety than males, so math anxiety may contribute to the relative lack of women in math-heavy careers. Finally, math-anxious adults may experience lesser quality of life, for example, because they may fail to properly reflect on their finances or on their mortgage payments. How do we know if someone has high mathematics anxiety? Mathematics anxiety is most often measured by questionnaires. When filling these questionnaires, people respond simple questions about how anxious they feel when learning or doing mathematics, and students and adults achieving a high score on a math anxiety questionnaire are then considered to have high math anxiety. For example, people scoring in the top 10% of possible scores can be considered to have high math anxiety. It is important to establish that math anxiety is a distinct form of anxiety. In particular, we have to distinguish math anxiety from test anxiety and general anxiety. Test anxiety is anxiety for all kinds of test situations, not only in regard to mathematics, whereas general anxiety refers to an individual's tendency to feel anxious about everyday situations. For example, people with high general anxiety may be worried about their health or their family and about making simple decisions about their daily life. We know that individuals with high general anxiety and high test anxiety also tend to have high math anxiety. However, research has also shown that the above three anxiety forms are distinct from each other, and therefore math anxiety can be considered a distinct form of academic anxieties. As I noted before, a problem with math anxiety is that it may negatively affect mathematics scores. This is particularly obvious if we consider a large sample of people. In such a large sample, the stronger is math anxiety, the weaker is math performance. For example, in countries with high math anxiety, students tend to have lower math performance than in countries with lower math anxiety. Further, very poor math achievers have about double the chance to have high math anxiety than other students. On the one hand, it is possible that high math anxiety may lead to worries about mathematics, which disrupt performance of math tests, and on the other hand, it is also possible that poor math achievement can also lead to high math anxiety if students worry about their weak test performance. That said, we also know that about 80% of students with high math anxiety do not actually perform very poorly in math. This brings us to another important point to discuss, which is that emotional and cognitive mathematics difficulties seem very distinct from each other. First of all, it is a frequent misconception that only very poor math achievers show high levels of mathematics anxiety. However, as I said before, we know that about 80% of children with high mathematics anxiety are actually normal to high math achievers. So these children are able to do math at a normal level or at even above average levels. However, on the long term, they may be kept away from math-related career choices by their high math anxiety. For example, we can imagine a plausible course of events where high math anxiety leads to less affinity to take elective math classes or to follow school specializations requiring more mathematics learning. At the same time, classmates taking elective math classes will of course become better in mathematics, so avoidance of elective math training opportunities may lead to poorer perceived ability in mathematics compared to others taking elective math classes. This poorer perceived ability in mathematics then can justify high mathematics anxiety, and this can lead to even more avoidance of doing and learning mathematics. So in summary, high math anxiety can lead to the avoidance of elective math training opportunities in children who are otherwise mathematically capable, and it can ultimately lead to the avoidance of math-related career choices as well. As I noted before, about 80% of children with high mathematics anxiety are normal to high math achievers. In contrast, we also know that about 80% of children with poor math achievement do not actually have high math anxiety. What can be the reason of this dissociation? A suggestion is that high math anxiety would mostly appear in children who find mathematics important but also have relatively low confidence in mathematics. That is, some children performing well in math may develop high mathematics anxiety exactly because they value math highly, but they also have relatively low confidence in the subject. In contrast, some children who perform poorly in mathematics may not develop high mathematics anxiety because they may not be interested in the subject, they may not value math too much, or they may just not be able to recognize the significance of their poor math performance for their future. So, in summary, emotional and cognitive mathematics difficulties seem distinct from each other, and they likely need very different remedies as well. An additional important point to discuss is that girls often show much higher levels of mathematics anxiety than boys, even if they are as good in math as boys. This discrepancy in self-reported math anxiety between girls and boys can be due to several reasons. First, there often exist gender stereotypes about boys being better in math and science than girls, and many parents, teachers, and students may share these stereotypes. Children can learn these stereotypes very early in life, even before entering school. A related observation is that girls often report lower self-confidence in mathematics than boys, even if they perform equally well as boys in mathematics. It is possible that negative stereotypes about girls and mathematics can lead to high math anxiety and low confidence in mathematics in case of girls. Another possibility is that girls may be genuinely more anxious than boys. For example, in our own studies, we have often observed that girls also have higher general anxiety and higher test anxiety than boys. So overall, higher anxiety levels in girls may predispose them to have higher levels of math anxiety as well. Another possibility is that girls may be more willing to admit their anxiety in many cultures than boys. This may be because boys are often taught to be tough and not to admit their anxieties. Finally, it is also possible that girls may be able to recognize their anxiety better than boys of the same age. This may be because girls are often emotionally more mature than boys at the same age. Ultimately, whatever is the cause of the gender gap in math anxiety, it is likely that higher self-perceived math anxiety in girls may lead to lesser confidence and avoidance of optional math learning in girls. So we can risk the conclusion that higher math anxiety in girls than in boys may be a serious factor behind the male dominance of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. A further important point to discuss whether we could identify any special triggers of math anxiety in school. In an interview study, we have found that students with low and high math anxiety have very similar school experiences. However, they interpret these similar school experiences very differently from each other. Two important factors which determine the interpretation of their school experiences are confidence in mathematics and resilience and persistence, the ability to exert sustained effort towards achieving a goal. With regards to confidence, we found that many primary school students with high math anxiety thought that the work required in math class was well beyond their capabilities. We also found that some other students reported loss of confidence when they encountered more challenging work than before. For example, perhaps paradoxically, this could have happened when they were moved into higher achievement groups exactly because they performed very well in class. In these cases, teachers thought that the students were already ready for more demanding work. However, the confidence level of students was not yet up to these expectations. Further, in secondary school, we found that many students felt that there was now more at stake in math class than in primary school, and the perception of these elevated stakes led to a drop in confidence. With regards to resilience and persistence, their importance is well illustrated by the quote from this 9-year-old girl who said that sometimes my mind gets a bit confused. I felt really frustrated, but after 2 days everything went into my head and I knew everything. As you see, this little girl was ready to struggle for 2 long days in order to understand the material, and ultimately she was successful thanks to her resilience and persistence. An additional factor to mention as a potential trigger of math anxiety is confusion experienced about teaching materials. That is, some children may get confused when they encounter different teaching methods and solution strategies without perhaps deeper understanding of these. For example, different teachers and parents may promote different solution methods to children, and children may not understand how these methods relate to each other, which one to use in which exact situation. They may experience confusion, and this confusion can trigger math anxiety. A final important question to consider is how to alleviate math anxiety. First of all, it is not yet clear what works best. However, there can be some tentative suggestions. First, in case of poorly performing students with high math anxiety, it is important to very gradually increase exercise difficulty in order to build both math skills and confidence in mathematics step by step. It is important to reward genuine invested effort and thinking, not only achieving correct solutions. It is useful if students understand that it is natural and inevitable to make errors and that they can also learn from their errors. It seems important that students should understand the difference between doing mathematics and doing mathematics quickly under time pressure in a test situation. It is possible that some students actually like doing mathematics, or at least some mathematics, at their own pace. However, they may hate the time pressure of a test situation. In such cases, it is not mathematics per se, but rather the time pressure of the test situation which may trigger math anxiety. Further, in case of well-performing students with relatively low confidence in mathematics and high math anxiety, it is useful if students understand that their anxiety can have a negative impact on their math performance, and if they understand that their relatively good math performance and their worries about mathematics are distinct from each other. It is useful to put students' relatively good performance or fairly good performance into perspective, as they may very seriously underestimate their ability for doing mathematics, especially when comparing themselves to the best of class. It is important to build confidence level at the right performance level, for example, when increasing expectations towards a student, as we have seen before. It may be useful to discuss worries about mathematics and potential ways to resolve these worries. And in case of some students with very high level of math anxiety or very high level of anxiety in general, it may be necessary that students have some coaching or counseling on anxiety management. For example, regarding situations when they have to speak in front of the whole class. Finally, in case of girls with high math anxiety, it is important to understand the math gender stereotypes of students, teachers, and parents alike, and their potential impact on performance. It is important not to attribute success or failure on a math task to gender, and to promote STEM subjects to girls and boys equally at all levels of schooling. In case of older students, it may already be possible that they understand their own gender stereotypes about mathematics, which they may have brought with themselves from their family. This is all I wanted to say today. Thank you very much for your attention. Here you can find some recommended reading if you would like to read more about mathematics anxiety. Thank you again.